Peace and praise, blessed ones. Peace and praise. This is Blair, your Care Bear. And I am back for another episode. And I know I've been missing in action. I've been dealing with a lot of things, just trying to, I'm just trying to make time though. Y'all have to work with me. I do appreciate y'all for being here. Like, I'm not going to be long. I've been working on myself, working on how I deliver my messages, how I speak to people, and how I pace the conversations. Because I am well aware that I can sometimes be long winded. I can sometimes interrupt when people are talking, and I can sometimes go from one topic to the next topic. So today, I just want to say that moving forward, I cannot entertain anything that does not serve me. Meaning that if I don't participate in it, if I don't watch it, and I do not, if it doesn't apply to me, then I'm not going to address it. And it's very hard to do that sometimes because, you're on social media, you're outside, and you see things. And sometimes we do got to call things out for what it is. We do got to call out the BS. We have to normalize that. So I'm going to get right into it. Happy Juneteenth weekend. Happy Father's Day weekend. Father's Day is tomorrow. Yesterday was Juneteenth. Today is the 20th. Happy birthday. Happy anniversary. Congratulations, condolences to whoever it applies for. Because, like I said, I want to promote love and positivity and greatness and excellence. And sometimes entertaining the negative things can mess up the algorithm. Entertaining the negative things can kind of mess with your mind. So I don't have an opinion on nothing. I want to talk about the good things, the positive things to me. And because tomorrow is Father's Day, I just want to share with y'all something. Just a couple things. I always been a daddy's boy. I'm 38 now. And I've always had a relationship with my father. I love my father to death. I remember when he was in the military, and I was I was home. This was during my parents' marriage, and after my parents' marriage, I would call him, talk to him about school and what I learned in school today. I remember my dad giving my brothers and sisters us some incentive, like if we had got A's and B's. I want to say, I think for each A, I'm not 100% sure if it was each A, but I know the A's, you get $20, B's $10. I don't know if C's is anything, maybe it was 5, but I remember we used to get rewarded for that, and that's something that we have to that I want to do for my son. Like I had I made him a cash app, and every week $5 get deposited into his account. And I told him when his birthday come, which will be September 26th, he can use it for whatever he wants. I have access to his card, but I want to teach him about, saving and, doing, better with finances, because I know he was asking me to buy him Robux, and he wanted to get something on his tablet. But I was like, no, I told you what I was gonna do. He's going to the 5th grade, y'all, too. He's going to the 5th grade. He's going to the 5th grade. I don't have my sound effects today. I'm not on my my actual studio. But I'm proud of my son. I'm proud of my father. I'm proud of me. We have I'm just gonna say, like, that's something that I have to do a little bit more for. I have to give myself a little bit more grace, because I take pride in my name, take pride in my character, take pride in who I am as a person, even with some of the flaws. I've always kind of been very very resistant, persistent with trying to be better. And I want to encourage all the fathers, grandfathers, uncles, whoever, like any male influence role model, to just give yourself a little bit more grace. Things aren't going to be easy all the time, but what's important, especially to the children, is our presence. And I'm gonna say this too, because I have struggled for a long time sometimes. As men, especially men who are not married and who don't live with their children's mother, baby mother, or whatever, however y'all want to apply it to it. Sometimes men will do the bare minimum, and I don't really like that. But I think sometimes, because you're doing other things, like work will drain you for sure. I do feel like there's always going to be some type of excuse or explanation, and I mean, you can't really get away from that, but we just have to acknowledge it. One way to resolve a problem is to address it and acknowledge that it is a problem. And men doing the bare minimum as fathers is a problem. I always put my best foot forward as a father, but I'm aware that there's single mothers out here doing it by themselves, don't have no type of help from any type of man or nothing. And like I said, that's kind of like something that I've struggled with, because me as a friend, just as a friend, I have a lot of resentment towards women, and part of the reason is because of the men that they choose to have children with. It's almost kind of like, I want to be humble as possible. There's certain relationships that the inner man in me that says this isn't going to work out. But it's not my place to say it to them, so it's just like, man. And sometimes it ends up not working out. It shows a lot because because of my rejections from my friends, women that I've dealt with romantically and platonically, there's always kind of been a form of rejection because sometimes when I want to call or talk to them just to say hello, see how things were going, I would get no response. So I've had there was a resentment that built up in me because I'm like, why you not responding? Because it doesn't take any time to, just say, hey, okay, this. So I look at it as you're ignoring me or you're neglecting me. And out of respect for the men that they're with, it's like, I can't deal with you anymore. And I don't know if it's just based because, like, some, men have egos, men have pride, men, like, y'all already know the dynamic with that. I do feel like the men versus women narrative is ridiculous. I don't like it. And sometimes, due to lack of communication, lack of community, lack of consistency, it can be that. Because I've always said if a man was to do that, because sometimes we project, our thoughts onto women and other people because of maybe what we would probably be doing. You know, now personally, because again, I wasn't like I said, I'm not out here doing any dirt. I was like, okay, why are you not responding? Is your phone off? Are you dealing like you're involved with somebody? And like from my experience, from my history, that's pretty much how things have been. So it's like I'm just like that's just gonna be my narrative. Like if you don't respond, because you can be busy all you want. Like you can be busy, you can be sleep, but at some point it's like okay, you see this missed message, you see this missed call, and that's something that I have to work on within myself. So y'all pray for me, please. But as a father, my responsibility to my son is to be present. My responsibility to my son is to love him. That's my first responsibility is to love him. And as a man, I have to be in touch with my feminine side. Well, I'm not even gonna say feminine side, but I have to be in touch with those soft sides because I have a child, and I think the the way that a lot of men were raised by their mothers only could affect it, and even by masculine, like so masculine men, it can be affected too. Like you want your children to be better than you, and I've been telling my son this since before he was born. I remember when I was, when me and my ex-wife was together, but like when he was still in the womb, I would talk to him, be like, you're gonna be better than me, um, and he will. I mean, he's 9. Like I mentioned, his birthday's in September, but he's definitely going to be better than me. And like I said, I will do my absolute best to make sure that he is. Like I didn't have a terrible childhood. Like my parents, like I said, I was in both of my like my father was in my life. My mom was there. I used to give my mom a hard time, and I said this many times. But my father was in my life. There are certain things that he raised us, taught me personally that maybe I didn't understand until as I got older. But I always say the things that you learn from young to old, you might not understand why you're learning them, or you might not know why you're learning them until the time comes. Like I had my son at 29. So even with my nieces and nephew, my goddaughter, and then even like other children, other women's children who I was around, that prepared me to be a better father. And then even being married and raising my son, it allowed me to be a better man. But by the grace of God, I'm still here. I'm getting more focused, driven on being I can't think of the word now, but it's like I've always been in my son's life. My son, like, we always had a good relationship. It's like now, and it's like, man, this is really becoming. It's almost as if that's all I have to do now. That's all I think about now. Like, I work, come home, eat, sleep, talk to my son, spend time with my son, and that's been it. But it's a daily process. So pray for me, please. Pray for me. Um, but blessed ones, I've like I've mentioned on the last, actually, I might have said it on my last episode. I'm not 100% sure, but like I said, I lost my stepfather. He officially passed June 1st. He would have been 67 yesterday, and I haven't really lost. I haven't really lost anyone close to me like that. Because even like because me and my stepfather, we wasn't maybe as close as we could have been. But I mean, we had talked. I mean, I didn't really know his favorite color or nothing, but I knew his favorite team. I knew he worked all the time. Um, and even with my grandfather, I knew my grandfather to the to a degree. I mean, me and my grandfather wasn't even really close neither. But it's like he's like I said, my grandfather was another man. Like he had 6 children, one boy, my father. And he did what he had to do to provide. Him and my grandmother, they stayed married. I don't remember exactly how long they was married, but they were still married. And then my mom's dad, like I mentioned this, sometimes, like I said, I was in middle school. I was in 8th grade when my grandfather passed in 2002. 2000. I want to say he passed in 2000. Maybe 2001. I was in 8th grade, so it was one of those. But he had a lot of children. He had 40 plus children. But I've always tried to follow their example, and just as far as like being active father. Like, so I don't know what type of father my mom's dad was. I didn't really necessarily know what type of father that my dad was. I know my father, he's someone who's I seen and it's like, yeah, he tried his best. And like when you're a child, sometimes we don't recognize some of the things that our parents go through because we're children, we don't have no type of responsibility. And I was a kid that was outside. Unlike now, my son, he stays in the house a lot and he's playing a tab and that's kind of how me and his mother both wanted. Like when he's with me, I mean, like he's here with me. We'll go to the park. We'll do things, but it's like my eyes are on him all the time. And then like same thing with his mother. But that's the thing. Like it's not necessarily because I'm afraid that the world is wild, but it's just like I'm just overprotective. Like the crazy thing with my son is like I love my son sometimes so much to where like I can probably let him go out and play. I mean he don't. I mean he moves a lot, so he hasn't really been able to have a outside communion. But again, he has brothers and stuff that he plays with, but it's like he don't have like a big circle. don't really have like relationships with other children. He moves so much, and like I said, he's like me. I work, his mother works. When is he gonna go? When is he gonna be able to go outside? When is he gonna go out to play? But the tablet too. But that's another thing. Just a lot. There's a lot of things that I've had to process. You know, I had to realize that certain things that we tell our children, that doesn't mean they're going to learn it, because you can't telling somebody something isn't teaching them. As children, you kind of see, like, every child's different, but children, they imitate and follow an example. So if I tell my son to stay off the tablet, but he sees me on the laptop or on my phone, because again, their brain isn't fully developed. They might see things a little bit differently than we. So it's like they might feel like, oh, since I'm doing it, they can do it, because it's like because even me, because I don't really remember as a child if that's what I did, but I was like, if so my son sees me, I'm telling him to do something, but he doesn't see me doing it, he's probably not gonna do it. Like, our children wants to be like us. A lot of our children wants to be like us. They want to follow us. They want to be around us. So they're going to imitate and project the same energy that we give them. So I have made a decision to I'm gonna get off social media. I'm gonna get off social media forever. I've already removed my Facebook. So right now I'm dealing with Threads, Instagram, and TikTok. But the only reason why I've made an announcement about it, because going back again to the resentment, excuse, going back to the resentment that I had towards the women, I feel like, I didn't need to, but it was something that I felt I wanted to do, because I could never feel like, I probably wouldn't feel good if I just up and deleted my account, and then people might thought I've blocked them, or they leave. Like, I don't want to have. I want to be able to give people some understanding and clarity of why they don't see me anymore, or why am I not as active? Because even with social media, because I've said this before, social media is just as much of a real place as reality is, because our thoughts become things. Life is what you make it. If you can believe it, you can achieve it. That type of mentality. It's like social media is a tool. It's a platform for, on a broader scale, for people to, communicate. Some people might use social media for entertainment purposes only, information, awareness, just to BS around. And I think a lot of times we focus on the negative side of it a lot. But to me, social media was a useful tool. But I was like, I've given so much time to social media that I wasn't really focused as much as I needed to be to do my other aspirations. I did my book, Soul Food in the Red, that's still available, came out. Valentine's Day this year. Y'all can cop that. It's on Amazon. It's digital only, so you can probably cop it on Kindle. It's only $5. But there's other things that I want to do. I'ma still have my YouTube account. I'ma still do my podcast. But social media, it's difficult because I'm like, dang, how am I gonna be able to promote or share my content if I don't have a marketing team. I don't have any street teams. I do everything myself. But I was like, God is good, and it's time that I put myself out there a little more on a more broader scale. You know, social media used to just kind of like bypass time. And because I was on social media so much, so like I said, I was like, man, I'm not really working on my scripts, writing my my songs, because everything, like a lot of the thoughts that I have, I used to put on social media, and I wasn't really putting pen to pad. I was expressing a different way. But I decided, after 20 years of being on social media, from Tag to MySpace to Twitter, Instagram, and all that. 20 years. I graduated from high school in 2005, and maybe sometime after graduation, this might have been maybe a little bit after my first job. I want to say maybe 2006. I had uh I had discovered. I don't even know how I came across it, but I was on Tagged. I think at that point, I don't even know if it was a dating site then, but this was before it became like what it was then. Because like I said, Tag was around for a long time. I remember High Five and all these chat rooms. I remember there was a aftermath forum. I don't know if Dr. Dre or his people was actually the ones who was managing it, but I remember going on there. They used to be like digital rap battles. People used to battle on there, and I don't know if that, because I think even that time I was like rapping, writing music and stuff. I don't know if I had a battle there, but I remember they used to have battles and people would like be like, yeah, who won this battle? Like that, it was a time, man. Like those days was a time, and then Facebook, and at that time Facebook was just like a college network place, and then Black Planet, all these things, and then at some point Twitter came, then Instagram came, so on, so on, so on. I remember when TikTok, before TikTok was TikTok, I think it was called Like or Musically. It was one of those. I don't know if Like and Musically formed together and made TikTok, but yeah. So I was like, man, I've been on social media for a very long time. I mean, some people was able to monetize their accounts, that which is great for them. It's amazing for them. I never really had the privilege. I mean, I might have made like $1 or whatever, but it's like I never been on social media trying to make money. I was really there just kind of like, raising awareness. Same reason why I do the podcast. Raising awareness, sharing thoughts and talking to people from all over the world, and even with my music, sharing music. I just want people to like give people something to enjoy, something to think about, give people another option. So yeah, there's just certain things. But blessed ones, I'll tell you this, and I'm gonna roll out of here. Life is definitely a privilege. Enjoy it. Get some sun. Drink plenty of water. Spend time with your children. Don't get so caught up with your jobs and careers that it drains you and wears you down, that you'll end up grumpy, angry, mad, and then take it home, bring it home. Because our children needs us. Our children wants our love and attention, and they belong to God. So you are their guardians for right now, but you made a choice. We all made a choice to have children. And I'm going to say this, and I've said this many times: if you didn't want children, then take the proper steps and responsibilities to avoid having children. I understand sex is great, sex is amazing, but if you don't want children, you have to do what you need to do. The safest sex is no sex at all, but of course, we live in a world like we feed the flesh a lot of times in more ways than one. So it's just like, if just be there. Be there for your children. Be there for your children. I promise you, they will, you will have a better life when you actually are around, when you're there for your children. And even if you're not there physically, because like I said, my dad was in the military, but he was always active. I talk to him all the time. I still talk to him now. And man, you know, be there for your children. But as always, blessed ones, I want y'all to stay safe, stay prosperous, productive, and positive. And y'all know who it is. Y'all have a phenomenal day. I'm out.